Vanellope! Hi guys, it's Fana, and thank you so much for watching. I am so excited about this doll. I've been teasing at it on my Instagram forever, but when I first saw the Adorables line, I knew that they would be absolutely perfect for creating a Vanellope doll from Wreck-It Ralph. And since the new movie, Ralph Breaks the Internet, is coming out today, I knew that I just had to make her. Adorables are a blind box style doll, so when I opened it, I received Rainbow, who even came with a lollipop, so it must have been a sign to make Vanellope. First order of business is to remove all her clothes in factory paint with 100% acetone nail polish remover. I attempted to also remove her little yellow leotard, but that made more of a mess because acetone actually melts plastic. It's a good thing that she's going to be completely covered with her clothes, so we don't get to see that mess. The next step is to remove the hair with scissors, getting as close to the scalp as possible, before removing the head and scraping the inside to pull out any loose hair plugs or glue. I painted the scalp black with acrylic paint and sprayed 2 coats of Mr. Super Clear, a matte sealant, so I could draw on the dolls. Yeah, you saw that correctly. This is face up number 1. The entire process was a nightmare. I redid the face completely 3 different times. It went from terrifying looking to okay to me actually really liking it. I'll show all 3 faces later in the video. It was such a frustrating process, but I really wanted Vanellope to look perfect. I used watercolor pencils and pastels to sketch and blush the face. With this first face up, I wanted Vanellope looking to the side with arched eyebrows. But I couldn't get the eyebrows right. They definitely weren't arched enough, and they just turned out like lopsided looking, not in the like intentionally good way like I planned. She started off looking really promising. I don't really know what happened. I thought that having a doll with such large eyes would be easier, but nope. Since the mouth mold was pretty intense, I decided to just go with it and not try to modify it at all and just gave her a big smile. I continued building up the colors, spraying MSC when I can't get any more opacity with the current layer. She was looking really muddy, but I was pushing through, trying and praying, and yeah. I added the eye highlights and everything really just started going downhill. The lights were just too big and blobby. I tried to match her lip color with the reference with acrylic paint, and it was truly horrifying. I kept telling myself, this is fine, it's fine. But it wasn't fine, especially when I tried to give her like that cute button nose. If you look at a reference of Vanellope, her nose is a lighter color than the rest of her skin, which is really odd, but when I try to replicate it, well, you don't get to see that footage. Now for face number 2. I decided to go with a different eye shape, a more smiling, scrunched look. I had her eyes facing forward, hoping that this would help with things. It was going okay. I mean, at least much better than the first time I felt. Once again, the big no-no was when I started adding the eye highlights. I tried to get fancy and go around the edges of the eye with white like I did for my pastel Lolita doll. The results were less than stellar. I even added some super dramatic lashes. These are the same ones from my Halloween warrior Nyx. I was trying to convince myself that this face-up was done, and honestly, it was such a massive improvement from the first one that I had almost convinced myself that this one was okay. But I knew that it just wasn't right. But while I was still fighting with myself, I decided to style her hair. I had prepared black yarn wefts by brushing out some black acrylic yarn and making wefts with hot glue. I rolled a long weft into, not a ball, but I was just like rolling it so it created a spiral and made a ponytail. And I attached this to the top of the doll's head with hot glue again. This is a styling hack, aka I'm too lazy, so I just did a pre-made ponytail. I then started with the bangs and began working my way around the head, going upwards. Once I'd gone around once or twice, I pulled the hair into the ponytail, making sure to grab part of the bangs as well for a smooth transition. This is why I painted the skull black, so that anything that shone through, you would just see black like the hair. I styled the hair with small scissors, trying my best to get them as perfectly as possible to my reference photo. It was really hard getting the bangs in such a perfect, messy style, but I think I was able to achieve it. This is when I decided that I couldn't avoid it anymore. I had to redo the face. Face number 3. This time, since I had already done the hair and I'd done the lashes and I didn't know what to do, so I just went over the center of the eye with white acrylic paint and redid the pupils completely with a paint as well. I just didn't use the pencils, I only used paint. I gave her the side expression again, and I did really simple highlights. And you know what? I'm actually really happy with how she turned out. I think it looks super cute and keeps in the spirit of Vanellope. But since I already had my paints out, it was time to do the stockings. I just painted her legs mint green and then added the white and the purple stripes. Making actual fabric stockings at this size would 1, be way too bulky, and 2, I was terrified and it would be extremely tedious. But once that was done, I made sure to give her legs a coat of sealant to make sure that they don't go anywhere. Okie dokie, now time for the outfit. For the skirt, I made a template out of white cardstock, eyeballing a tutorial for a Vanellope costume. I'll link it down below. I made a tie shape, flipping the template over and tracing it repeatedly on a piece of paper. I'm going to be making a slightly larger example in white here so you guys can actually see what I'm doing. Once I had enough pieces, I carefully cut them all out, making sure that the pairs stay together. I then placed them onto a piece of packing tape, making sure that the sticky side is up and that I'm alternating which pieces that I'm using. Once all the pieces are side by side and form a circle, I lay another piece of tape on top, sandwiching the pieces between the sticky sides. I then go around and cut the skirt out. You fold along each edge, alternating up and down until I get her Reese's skirt. Here's a side by side with the sparkly brown scrapbook paper that the skirt will actually be made of. Since I showed you guys the bigger one, I now make a smaller one to fit the doll. Once it's completed, I hot glue it into place, adding a strip of paper between her legs to make sure that the skirt doesn't hike up and go anywhere. After you do this, the next thing that I did was make an even smaller version of that skirt and glue it above the first one, creating a layered effect. And now it's all done. I'm really happy with how it turned out. On to the shoes. I mixed my 2-part epoxy sculpt and made her little shoes, sculpting them directly onto the feet because I really didn't want to kill myself by even attempting removable shoes that small. Once the epoxy dries, I paint the shoes black and add a layer of gloss varnish to make them shiny. She's actually able to stand up on them, be it very precariously and with a lot of trial and error, but she can actually stand up. I decided to sculpt her Twizzler hair out of Sculpting. I had to mix 2 colors because I couldn't find one that fit perfectly. I took 2 long ropes and twisted them together before fixing it around her ponytail. I really had no idea how to bake it in the oven while still getting her tight ponytail through the loop. So I just used a hairdryer to bake it directly on her head. It's still a little soft, but it holds the shape now. Instead of sculpting all the candy for her hair, I found some tiny beads and a whole bunch of colors and decided to hot glue those to her hair. I do kind of wish that I had found the time to make little candies, but I knew I didn't have the patience nor the skills to do so. I lost the process for the hoodie. I am so sorry. It is by far the smallest thing that I've ever sewn. I wanted to die while doing it, but I did it. It even has a little hood and a pouch in the front, and I added little raspberry embroidery floss for stitching and then for her hood's cords. Unfortunately, when I put her head back on, it was so stiff that I had to use a little too much force, so the sealant between her eyes cracked a little bit. I don't know if you can even see it in the video, but now she's all done. I absolutely adore Wreck-It Ralph. It is one of my top 3 Disney movies, and I'm so excited to see the sequel. Even though I don't have the highest hopes for it, I'm still gonna see it. And I really hope you guys like my Vanellope. She is actually for sale. You can DM me on Instagram if interested. But if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe. I hope you have a phenomenal day and keep being extraordinary.